Hey y'all, it's Tuesday. We're getting ready to get started.
It's time for the Rutledge Reflective Radio Show live here on KCOH TV Radio, The Boost in Houston, Texas. And I'm your host, Laurel Rutledge, and I cannot wait for the show to start because spending Tuesday mornings with you is a highlight of my week. And if you're listening or watching on one of my pages, be sure to give StreamYard permission so I can see your name and I can see your comments. And let me know where you're tuning in from so I can give you a shout out on the air. I know we have a global audience, and I want to acknowledge you for taking the time to listen to me, for those of you in my time zone, and for those of you who are way out of it. I also want to welcome your questions and your comments. Now, I got to run so I can get ready. See you soon.
Tuesday, Tuesday, Tuesday. We're talking it out on Tuesday. It's a Frankie Beverly and Mays kind of day, y'all.
Before you let go, decisions.
Before you let go. Good morning, everybody. Y'all, see, this is what happens when you got a producer who listens. Every time I say, hey, what I'm talking about, she finds some song that's like related to that. So say Frankie Beverly and Mays. We're going to be talking about decision making today. Before you let go, because you got to let some stuff go in order to make some decisions. So, and I can't see. So let me put my my glasses on. I actually need to make another doctor's appointment because I think there's something wrong with my prescription. Okay. But I digress. So here we are on Tuesday. It's been one of those weeks already, y'all. So first things first, voting. I am, if you're listening to me, I'm assuming you are registered because see, we talk about that all the time. So I'm assuming you are registered like you're supposed to be. We are about 90 days out, y'all. It's August 16th. And about a little over 90 days out. I need you to make sure you're registered. Some places it's 60 days, some are 30. In some states you are automatically registered when you get your driver's license. So if that's the case, then beautiful. You're good to go. But if not, please go get registered. Just please, okay? And then I need you to be prepared for educating yourself on who is running, what's going on. There's some folks who are having some really serious contests. Pay attention to who they are and what they're saying about schools, what they're saying about curriculum. Who's running for your school board? Do they have any kind of education in educating people in curriculum design? Most likely not. There don't seem to be a whole lot of teachers on school boards, but a whole lot of parents with a whole lot of opinions. And so make sure you're paying attention to who's on school boards. I think what I've said before, you can have good intent with bad impact. And then there are a lot of people who have bad intent. So pay attention to who's getting on your school boards because elections start local. They start local. So pay attention to who's running for your school board, who's running for your city council, who's running for mayor. So there are going to be local elections going on as well. Get educated about the candidates. Then get educated about your state candidates. Who's running for governor, who's running for state senator. Because remember, all of this is a progression. Probably not as much as it used to be, because apparently you don't have to have any experience to run for office anymore. It used to be a progression, and there's still people who really want to actually learn how government works. One, so they can operate well within it, but also so they can understand how to dismantle it. So there are people who really do want to understand the system so they can figure out how to make the system run better or dismantle the old biases and the old craziness and the old bureaucracy. So go get educated about the candidates that are running in your area so you know who you're dealing with and how they are likely to or not to represent your views, your concerns, your needs, etc. when they are in office. So make sure you're getting registered. Pay attention to what the rules are. They are changing rules rapidly and all the time. They are purging roles rapidly and all the time. So, and that's not fear mongering. That is just, you need to be paying attention. So make sure you get your voter registration card. Go check your voter registration ID number. Go online and double check and make sure that it is where it's supposed to be. Okay. So Um, don't go register and think you're registered and then all of a sudden find out that you weren't registered. You can go to vote.gov in the US, and make sure you understand all the rules for your state about how to get registered. They have everything there on how to get registered. So make sure you go out there and find out what that is so you can get registered and be on the rolls. Also, you can go to Ballotpedia, Ballotpedia, like Wikipedia, except ballot instead of wiki. Go to Ballotpedia, find out what's on your ballot, find out when the next elections are. They have a whole 2022 elections, statewide primaries, runoff elections. They're listing every election by date. So go out there and see when the upcoming elections are. Ballotpedia.com. You can also get a sample ballot there. You can also go to your county boards of election and get sample ballots there as well. Go on to ours is harrisvotes.org, right? So go out there and find out what's on the ballot and go read what's on the ballot. Not only who the candidates are for each office, but if there are other ballot measures, if there are other things that they are trying to put, constitutional amendments, city ordinances, those kind of things, go find out what's on the ballot, because those things are important too. Often we just want to vote for governor, or we just want to vote for state rep or whatever. There are hot button items, but remember, if you don't let your voice be heard on all these other issues, those other issues impact you too. Your property taxes, your mud district taxes, for those of you who are in a mud district for water, all of those things that you just pass by and decide it's not important, guess what? Other folks are voting on it, and you will be governed by whatever the ultimate decision is. So make sure that you understand the entire ballot and vote the entire ballot. Also, go out and find out what kind of machines are being used in your area. There are still some that have the little dial where you use the dial to move through your ballot. We got the new ones where you have to insert a piece of paper and you check your thing, and then you have to take the piece of paper out, and then you take it to another machine to submit your vote. So your vote is not submitted until you take that piece of paper and resubmit it in the final machine. Make sure you understand what machines are being used so that out of your good effort doesn't lead you to a vote not counted, right? So it is important to educate yourself on the processes, on the places. If you're voting early, you generally don't have to go to a specific primary polling place or a specific polling place. Generally, early voting is go to any location and vote. But again, check your location, your region, your state. Make sure that you know the rules. Go to whenweallvote.org, and they have your election, your rights, election rights. They have all the phone numbers there for you to call if you have any issue at the polls. If somebody's not giving you a ballot, if somebody's telling you can't vote, whatever's happening, somebody's harassing you in line, whatever the thing is, they have some rules for you to take with you, the election protection hotlines for you to call immediately if something happens. Also, if you are so inclined, register and get trained to be a poll worker. They are in need of poll workers, because here's the thing. If there are not enough poll workers, then polling places close. And which polling places have a tendency to close? The ones that are in underserved communities. I had a girlfriend talk about city council meeting, and all of a sudden they always wanted to have city council meetings at 10 o'clock in the morning. Guess who can't go to a city council meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning? The people who work. The people who are working a job where they have to be there because they're getting paid hourly. Those tend to be lower income and marginalized communities. They can't be there at a 10 a.m. meeting for city council when all the stuff is happening. So she pushed to be sure that at least the voting meetings were held in the evening so everybody who wanted to be there could be there. Go to your city council meeting. Just go see what's going on. Show up. They are public meetings. Go show up to a city council meeting. Go see what's happening in your city. Good morning, Sar Galatas. Good to see you this morning. Go show up. Go see what's going on in your city. Go see what's going on in your state, your county. Pay attention. What happens to one of us happens to all of us. And yay, Kansas. Good for you. Voices spoke. Just because you're hearing lots of rhetoric nationally does not mean that that's what the majority of people are looking for. The polls say that the majority of people want women to have autonomy over their own body. That's what the polls are saying. That's not what the elected officials did, because they're forgetting that they are elected to do a job of the people. That's what we need to think about term limits, because after a while you lose touch. All right, go Kansas. So we're going to keep moving in that direction. So we need y'all to show up. We need you to show up. We need you to show up in big numbers. We need the people in the middle to show up. The folks that are being, good morning, Legina. Yes, you need to come back. We're going to make that happen. So it is important. It is important for you to show up. And because Legina and I talked about this, she said, y'all, for us, just tell us what to do. Here's what I'm going to tell you to do. Go to ballotpedia.org to look at the ballots, and then go to vote.gov and find out how to register. That's what I need you to do. All you young folks who are tired of me talking, vote.gov, go get registered, and then take it from there, right? That's what I need you to do. Click on the button, go get registered. So please pay attention, y'all. Please, please, please pay attention. These are serious times. We've got major elections coming up in November, that first Tuesday in November. And it's not just the governor elections. There are all the seats in the House are up for re-election, every single one, and some very serious Senate seats. Okay. So please, please show up. And there are some highly contested races. So I need you to be paying attention to some of these folks, what's happening with Cheney, what's happening with Boebert, what's happening with, Warnock. Because see, we see you running Herschel Walker against Warnock. We see you run the two Black people against each other, split the vote. We see you. Black people, I need you to pay attention in Georgia. Okay. I need y'all to pay attention. I need you to pay attention. Who actually knows what the issues are? I need you to pay attention. Don't fall for the okie doke, because that's what has a tendency to happen. Run another person of color, another marginalized person, or another woman, so you can say you did, and you're splitting the vote. Pay attention, y'all. Pay attention to what people say and what they do. People will listen to what you say. They will believe what you do. Go look at people's records. All right. So vote, get registered, go vote. Now, a few things that are coming up. On August 29th is the beginning, I think that's the Monday, is the beginning of my next 5-day, the final one for the year. I think it's the final one, 5-day free activated alignment series. So you'll start seeing those things come out, and the registration will open, I believe it opens on the 18th. So it opens about 7 to 10 days ahead of time. So that's the free activated alignment. It's a question a day in your email to get you aligned with who you are and where you are. And then I'll go live for about 30 minutes every day just to answer any questions, to connect with you if you're so inclined. Not mandatory, but you'll have the Zoom link. If you register, you'll have the Zoom link for that to come join me each day of 5 days. So activated alignment series that's coming up. And then September 13th will be the last masterclass of the year. The last masterclass of the year will start on September 13th. That'll be a 90-minute session with me. That's also free. And then the membership thing is coming. So I'm really excited about this. There's going to be a membership opportunity. And you will either be able to, there'll be 2 different levels where you can get a certain amount of time with me one-on-one. And then I'll have office hours that you can join. There's going to be a journal that I've designed for you to get. If you join the membership, you get the journal as part of your membership. And there's also a 30-day shifting perspective on demand video series that you get, but you have to be a member to get those things. So I'm giving away the 5-day. You're getting all of me for that. I'm giving away the masterclass. You're getting all of me for that. I'm always in 200%. So you get all of me. I'm not just giving you little bitty stuff. I'm giving you real valuable information. But the membership, where you get more access to me, you get direct access to me, you get the journal, you get 30-day, that is going to have a cost to it. Now, it's not exorbitant, but it's going to be a monthly membership. And so I will be posting about that too, and would love to see a number of you come and be a part of my community as we build this. So I will be active in there, and really excited to meet a lot of you in that community. So start looking for that. Planning to launch that in September, in my birthday month. So look for that coming. So we'll start launching it, and then start getting everything running, get everybody in the community, kind of get the community going, and then we'll start everything in October probably. But I'll get you all those deadlines. And then we surpassed 12,000 downloads on the podcast. Woo! We did it. And I'm so psyched. So I've got the swag boxes. They're going to be 2 swag boxes. I'll be doing a video so you can see them. I'm trying to wait, but I'm going to do those here the last couple of months. You'll be able to see what they are. And here's how it's going to work. I'm still getting some of the links set up because I want to make sure they work appropriately. But if you DM me, and I'll tell you where, I'll give you all the details. So you have to follow me on social so you can get it. So follow me on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook to get this information, because I very rarely tweet. But if you follow me on one of those, you'll get it. Maybe Pinterest, I'll let you know. But you will, if you DM me, you will get an entry to get one of these swag boxes. And it's really cool. It's some branded information, but it's, or some branded pieces, but there's a blank journal in there. It's not the new design, but there's a blank journal in there with a really nice pen. There is a mug for tea that has a nice little bamboo wooden cover on it and a little spoon with it, for you to do tea or coffee if that's your thing. And then there's also this beautiful white tea and lavender candle that's in there. And then I'm also going to give away in these 2 boxes, you'll also get a free 30-minute session with me. So there'll be a little QR code in there for that, and a handwritten thank you note. So that's coming. I'll do the little reveal of all the little stuff. I'll do the video. So I'm excited about that. So look for that, because if you DM me, you will get an entry. But if you join my mailing list, you will get a second entry. So you get 2 times, and you can be global. So as long as I can mail it to you, then you can register to get selected. And we're going to do a spin, so you'll be able to see that I didn't just randomly pick names, or I didn't choose them with any kind of bias. We're going to do a random kind of choosing. So I'm excited about that. Thank you. Thank you for helping me surpass 12,000 downloads. We're on it, y'all. We're going to try to get to, hell, I don't know. Let's just say 20. We'll try to get to 20 by the end of the year. We got 4 months. So $20,000, that too, 20,000 downloads by the end of the year. So please like, share, pass it along. It is the Rutledge Perspective podcast on all the platforms. That's my pre-recorded one. This week, definitely tune in. You're going to meet Karen Rhodes. She's a soror of mine, but she's also running her own business. She is a former senior executive with Microsoft, and she's going to talk about leadership and finding your differentiated value and your North Star, trying to figure out how that is. It's a great conversation. And then tomorrow night, so the podcast will release tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow night, we are going to be live on Fireside. So I'll be posting all of that this afternoon. I know I try not to post stuff multiple times, like on top of each other, because it just gets buried in all the algorithms and stuff. So you'll see that post tonight, and I'll post a couple of times tomorrow just as a reminder. But her podcast, her pre-recorded, drops tomorrow morning, and then we'll be live for the after show tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock Central on Fireside. If you still need access to Fireside, firesidechat.com/Laurel Rutledge, all run together, and you can get access to Fireside. Make sure you request it. It's still, as far as I know, it's still just iOS, but you can also get it on the Fireside app on your desktop. And I will be simulcasting live to my YouTube channel, which is the Rutledge Perspective. So even if you're not on Fireside, you can still catch the show on YouTube. Now, I can't see your comments or anything on YouTube during the show, but I can go back and look at them. So anyway you need it, I got it. So you can join us tomorrow with Karen. All right. And
Michelle
then
said thank you for the important information.
Absolutely. You're welcome, Michelle. And then I'm putting together my 2023, maybe doing some pop-ups around the country, around the world in 2023. So putting together that list. So stay tuned. Ireland, y'all came through last week. We had not seen Ireland before. Thank you so much for showing up and tuning into the show. Lots of y'all actually from Ireland tuned in. So to the radio show and to the podcast. So I appreciate it so much that you guys are showing up. So thank you. All right. We're going to dive in. That was a lot. I normally don't have that much, but I had a lot of announcements. So we're going to dive into this whole decision-making thing. And I'm going to combine a couple of things because this has come back several times for me and in talking to clients as well. And so that's what made me say, let's just go ahead and talk about this. So, as I posted, the question becomes how hard is it to make a decision, to just pull the trigger on something? When is enough information enough? When is enough data enough? Because we got to know sometimes, there are times when you can be quick and approximate, right? We just got to do something. And sometimes you do need to be slow and precise. We need to really be clear to manage the risk of the decision that we're making. But how do you decide which one it is? And how do you decide when to just pull the freaking trigger, right? And this came up this last week because this membership thing that I'm talking to you about, I have been waffling for at least a year and a half on what the platform is going to be. Now, y'all who have been listening to me for a while know how I am about technology. Like I'm not, afraid of technology or any of that and customer service. So I will absolutely pay for a platform and a technology, but I need you to give me what I paid for. And I need you to not lie to me about what the platform can do. And I'm not talking about things that fall down and things that go offline and things like that. That's not what I'm talking about. Which, sidebar, for those of you who have a podcast or are thinking about a podcast and are looking for a podcast host, I am now a true believer and true supporter in Libsyn. I've been on Libsyn forever. That's where I was put on when I first started the podcast by someone else who knew what to do. But I am now going to be a supporter for a while until they really, unless they jack something up, because Libsyn went down a couple of weeks ago where you couldn't post your podcast episodes and all the stats were gone, right? You couldn't see anything. One, they notified everybody who was on Libsyn and said, we are aware of this problem. We were updating our database. Here's what happened and here's what we're doing. And then when you went into Libsyn, they had a little banner. And if you clicked on the banner, you got an update. They were updating all of their people every 2 hours. Here's what we did. Here's what happened. Here's what we did now. Here's what happened. Here's what we did now. Here's what happened. Every 2 hours, they kept you informed about what was going on and if they were going to have to be able to get it up in time or when it was going to be. I mean, it was a phenomenal customer service experience. What they did was they understood that podcasting is, one, so big. Two, there are so many choices. And three, it's all about customer service. People don't know what to do. If their business is their podcast, what are they going to do when they can't post their podcast? So they were on it. They were on it. So I tell you that story to say part of the thing with me about deciding on a platform is I need the platforms to do what they say they're going to do and be who they say they're going to be. And so I got rid of one platform because they just weren't doing what they said they were going to do, and they couldn't. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go with these simple ones, and they're working just fine for me right now. Might I have to add something later again? Maybe. But right now, they're working. And I have enough control over it that if something goes wrong, I can fix it as much as I can, right? That doesn't get into some kind of coding. But then I had to figure out what I wanted to do with this platform. And I got Mighty Networks a long time ago, right? And because I was in a club on Mighty Networks, and I'm now in one now, the Black Podcasters Association, which is phenomenal, by the way. Shout out to Black Podcasters Association, BPA, and Corey Gums. And make sure that when you're looking at a platform, you want to understand why you want that platform, right? We talked about strategy last week. What is it that you're trying to do? So I got into Mighty Networks, and I thought this would be great to build a platform. And they tout themselves as the anti-Facebook, right? Because Facebook, you don't own your your audience, you don't own their email, nothing, right? You don't own anything. It's all owned by Facebook. Mighty Networks was like, no, people register for your membership, right? They're part of your membership community, paid or unpaid. You have their emails, you have this information, right? You of course notify them. You got to be in integrity, but that's your stuff. It's your community. We don't own that. You own that. But we do take a percentage of your blah, blah, blah. Like, okay. Then I signed up, and I didn't do the free plan. I signed up for the paid plan because I own my emails. Get into the paid plan. Oh, well, you can't really stream on this plan. You have to go to the more expensive plan. And oh, by the way, yes, you can on your emails, but you also have to go to the expensive plan to do that. They didn't say that. That was a lie. It was a lie of omission. It was a bait and switch. That makes me cranky and my attitude gets bad. And I talked to them about it, and I sent them a message and said, this is not okay. It's a bait and switch. It's not okay. It's out of integrity. And I'm going to tell everybody. And I did. I posted about it. I'm like, yeah, all y'all that are Mighty Networks, great. Yeah, the platform feels really good. It feels professional, but here's how they operate. So just know what you're getting into, right? And so then I was on the search for something else, and I got something called, I think it's Heartbeat or something. And that didn't really have the right feel. And then somebody mentioned to me a long time ago about something called Podia. So I got into Podia, and I think that's where I'm going to be. But here's the issue that came up is it has taken me such a long time to freaking decide. And then once I actually decided on Podia, something else popped up. I'm like, oh, maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't need to do it, because if you get on one thing and then you build up this great community, but then you need to move into something, you have all this leakage because people aren't going to want to move because people don't like to change. And what about an app? Because Podia doesn't have an app, but they also don't charge you a transaction fee. And y'all, I was sick of me. Just trying to make a simple decision. So it's that the one side of your brain saying imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. Just do something. If you have to move it, you have to move it, but get something going. But the other side is that risk management side that says, yeah, but you want it to be excellent. It won't be perfect, but you need it to be excellent. You need it to work. You don't want people to have to move. You don't want to inconvenience people, right? So this battle of information, the battle of information that goes on in our heads when we are trying to make decisions, especially decisions that impact our careers, our families, or our business. Now, those things that are absolute fight or flight mode, man, you are moving. You're like, what? I'll deal with it later. I got to go. Or somebody's coming after my family. I got to make something happen, right? There are some that are very clear. But in other places, you start gathering information because you want to make a good decision. But then you get information overload. You get information overload. So what do you do? How do you stop? Where do you go? How do you make a move? And there was a podcast that I listened to. I love this podcast. It's called Hidden Brain. Shankar Vedantam does it. And I love it just because I'm a nerd, right? And I love him talking about how the brain works and how we process things and all that. I love it. It's called Hidden Brain. And they were talking about leadership and indecision. They called it ambivalence, right? And the weird thing about this is, on the one hand, if you are someone that's a leader and in a leadership position, right? Because leadership is about behavior, not position. But if you are in a leadership position where people are expecting you to make decisions, and you are always asking for one more piece of information, right? It seems like you're very indecisive. Every time somebody says something, you're like, oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Oh, that's good. That appearance of indecision can undermine someone's perspective on how great a leader you are, right? So there's that side of the yin yang. Man, why can't you make a decision? So people like me, type A's, right? And people who do tend to have a high level of ambivalence or high level of need to understand all sides, right? To really get information. I'm a risk manager, by nature. I really want to get all sides so we can make an informed decision, whatever that decision is. That indecision, or that seeking additional information, can be seen as indecision, and it makes people uncomfortable. Makes people think you're not a strong enough leader because you can't decide. But what's interesting about the research is the other side of that says, but from history perspective and experience perspective, those leaders that showed the most ambivalence, i.e. indecision, right, gathering much more information, were actually deemed to be the better leaders, because they really took the time to understand and get people's perspectives and then make a definitive decision and could explain why the decision was made. So even if they had to adjust in the background, they had even more information upon which to make adjustments. So yin yang, right? You're indecisive, but man, those indecisive leaders make some of the best decisions. So I've got all of this in my brain, and I've got this, what am I doing on this platform in my brain? And I'm like, how do we decide to pull the trigger? If you are in a situation and you're like, you know what, this just isn't working for me. This career isn't working for me. This company, this job, this whatever isn't working for me. I got to do something. How do you decide to pull the trigger? What constitutes for you enough information to make a move? Because I always say, sometimes if all you know is that this isn't it, that's a good place to start. That's a great place to start. At least I know this isn't it. I don't know what it is, but this ain't it. That's a good place to start. It's a perfect place to start, because at least you're starting from a foundation that says, I've got to examine something else. But how do you know when it's just time to go? Now, when I left corporate, I just knew it was time. I had so much peace about it. There was so much madness and drama and mess happening, and I was just through. And so I said, whatever the thing is after this, I know that this cannot continue. So no matter what the next steps are, this step is done. And here's how I'm going to do this. And so my decision was not whether or not I'm going to go. I made that decision. How I was going to do it, here's what I'm going to say, here's how it's going to happen. And, and then things took their course. Now, it took me a while to get there. I had to get to a point where I was just worn out. I had just had it. And I reached a point of perfect peace around that decision. That's how I knew it was the right one. Perfect peace. I wasn't angry. I wasn't irritated. I wasn't upset. I wasn't sad, nothing. I was so content and sitting in the right space of, this is what I need to do. When I left, it was what I needed to do. I could not deal with those folks anymore. Ever, never, ever. And yet there was almost 7 years of dealing with that madness. 7 years of having the information, because people don't change and organizations don't change that quickly, especially 80-year-old, 100-year-old, 200-year-old organizations. They don't change overnight. It's like turning Titanic. So I knew what I was seeing. My heart, my being knew what I was seeing. My brain kept trying to justify it. That's what we tend to do as Black people and as women. Well, let me see if I can say it a different way. How can I show up different? We tend to own everybody else's junk. We tend to look to home first. And there's some power in that, know thyself. But we tend to take on everybody else's mess as our responsibility. And that's just not the case. And so I'd spent almost 7 years battling this madness, thinking, well, maybe I need to try something different. Maybe I need to, say it a little bit different way. Maybe we need to adjust. And then I realized, this is not me. It's not me. This is the way the organization operates. And this is who they are. People will reveal themselves to you early. Believe them the first time. This is who they are. They say they want these things, but their behavior demonstrates that they really do not. This is who they are. And so now my choice is not whether or not I'm a problem. It is whether or not this environment works for me. And it didn't. And so I had a choice. And my choice was, I don't have to continue to do this. They are who they are. And kudos, right? They've been around this long by pure inertia, been around this long. They're going to be fine. One monkey don't stop no show, as they say, right? They're going to be fine. But I don't have to be there. And so that decision making in that instance came out of a heightened sense of pain, right? I'd been in pain with them for so long, I just couldn't do it anymore. So it was different in terms of being able to pull the trigger. But then I look at this technology thing, right, for my business, trying to decide how I'm going to serve someone, how that is going to represent my brand, how it's going to show up, how it's going to feel, the customer experience. And it's like pulling freaking teeth. Just make a decision, dang it, and move on. But there's some block that happens, right? Now I'm there now. We're going to use Podium. We're going to keep it moving. Good morning, Rem Wright. Exactly. He says our best decisions are guided by alignment with our values. Exactly. That's why I do my alignment, vision, action, right? Alignment, who you are and where you are. And so, but the point, especially, as you said, Rem Wright, that alignment is you have got to pause a minute. I was so caught up in, Laurel, just make a decision. Which one are you going to go with? It's just technology. Just figure it out. Here's ultimately what to do. You got your strategy set. You know what you want to do with this. Just pick a platform. But sometimes we got to stop a minute and say, what is the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal for me is to serve, to make it possible for folks to connect with me in a way that they haven't been able to before, to increase accessibility to me because I want to serve. So that's the goal. The goal is not the platform. The goal is not to have something beautiful, pretty, shiny, blah. That's like gravy. That's a cherry on the sundae. The goal is to be present in order to serve, because serving is in alignment with my values. I am here to serve. And how do I do that? I make sure that I am accessible to people. But again, we get caught up in the minutia around these decisions and we focus on the wrong things. So yes, because I'm my own IT person, I do think deeper about technology because I'm like, man, is it going to connect with everything? I might have to use Zapier and what kind of madness is there going to be? Because you either spend time or you spend money. But one of those two you're going to have to spend to get something done. And so I'm also being very discerning in which I'm spending. So if I'm picking a platform that's going to take a lot of my time to set up, does that make a whole lot of sense? Or do I pick that platform because it's the right one and then go find an external resource that's going to get it all set up for me and make sure it all ties? Because that's an option too, right? The options are from A to Z. But stopping in that decision-making process when you feel that trigger, that you're down this rabbit hole of madness, stop. Why are you making a decision? What is the purpose you are trying to move into? And how does this particular decision play into that overall purpose? Sometimes you may find that is not even the decision you need to make, at least not at the moment, and you can move on. Or you can say, you know what, the platform is inconsequential. Whether it's Podia or Mighty Networks or whatever, here are the things that are critical for the platform in order for me to be able to be present, in order to serve. Because the bottom line is service. So that ability to be in discernment around why you're making a decision and what decision you have to make in order to meet your overall purpose, that's the critical piece. That's the critical piece. You know, Jerry and I laugh all the time about me being on this radio show and the decision about that, because she saw it before I did. And I was still in that space of, I don't know, well, maybe. It's visibility. It's online. I mean, I got to be on camera again. I don't know. What am I going to say? And she just waited. she just waited for me to get my act together. And then when I talked to other people about it, gathered some information, they're like, are you nuts? Right? Because my decision-making process was not about service. My decision-making process was grounded in my own discomfort, not around being aligned with my deeper values. My deeper, as my guest you'll hear tomorrow, my North Star, my differentiating value. It wasn't there. It was more about my own comfort. Well, guess what? In order to serve other people, sometimes you got to be uncomfortable, because you've got to meet them where they are if you're going to be in service. Even knowing that not everybody is in a position to be served, right? So you can't help everybody. Not everybody wants to be helped, but even those who want to be helped aren't always in a position to receive assistance, right? So, which is a whole different conversation. But that decision-making process that we go through and trying to pull that trigger, I would suggest that one of the things we have to do is stop and remember, why are we making this decision in the first place? What is driving us to a decision-making point? And is it our own discomfort or our own worrying about us first? And you do have to put your mask on first, but is it worrying about us first that's driving the indecision, or is it something else? Whether or not I did the radio show and saying yes to Jerry in the moment was about my own discomfort. It wasn't about my greater purpose of serving people and being visible enough to be able to serve. It wasn't about that. That wasn't what I was thinking about. Even though I had said that January, I am going to be more visible in 2019 because in order to serve, I have to be more visible. I had said that to myself. I wrote it out there. I put it down as a definite dream and need. And yet I dismissed it. Yep. Kendall Rem Wright says, Colin Powell had a rule of thumb about making tough decisions. He said that every time you face a tough decision, you should have no less than 40% and no more than 70% of the information you need to make the decision. That's good. That's good. No less than 40, no more than 70. One, we're never going to have perfect information, y'all, ever. It's just not possible. It's not possible. And so when you're in indecision, are you trying to get that last little bit of information before you move? Or if you're really trying to get that last piece of information, are you trying to say, I don't want to make? And if that's the case, just put it aside. Put it aside, right? If you're honest with yourself and my real holdup is I don't want to make this decision, you need to deal with that. You need to deal with that issue, because that's going to keep cropping up. The issues we do not address will continue to show up for us. What is it that is preventing you from making your decision? What is preventing you from pulling the trigger on something? And for me, I had to keep examining and saying, what is it? You know what? Here are all the things that make this better than Mighty Networks. Here are all the things that make Mighty Networks better. But here are the things that are critical to me in terms of service. And one of the key pieces of that is ease and easy integration, so that I don't have to spend a lot of IT time. That was like paramount. But I had to sit and get out of the madness in my head around, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to move people, and what is it going to feel like? And because it wasn't about that. When I sat and examined, it wasn't about that. It was about resource utilization. That's what it was. It wasn't about showing up. It wasn't about, I'm very clear on this membership thing. I'm very clear. I know the value that it's going to give to people. I know that I know that I know. I know. It is going to deliver exceptional value to people because I've been giving away a lot of stuff and it's time to stop giving away everything, right? I know this is going to deliver value. So it wasn't that. My brain was telling me it was, but it wasn't that. My gut said something else is wrong. So when I paused and listened to my gut, because your head will lie to you, listen to my gut, I was like, you know what? That's not what it is. You need to just pull this trigger because the bigger issue is making sure that the technology piece is not going to drain your resources because all of your resources are better spent in delivering with excellence. And in order to deliver with excellence, you need a platform that is easily integrated. You don't need to have to think about it and worry about it. That's Podia for the stuff that you have. Now, y'all's decision might be different, right? Depending on what your setup is. But it's the same thing when you're in a leadership position. If you are waffling on a decision, if you are waffling on that decision, why? Remember, I told you about hidden brain. On the one hand, indecisive leaders are seen as really poor leaders. On the other hand, leaders who do take the time to see different perspectives are seen as some of the best decision makers because they have had a multitude of perspectives before they make the decision. Their decisions tend to be stronger and they tend to be more solid, right? Not that they're inflexible, but they actually tend to have more meat to them because they've taken the time to be ambivalent, right? To seek additional information. Now, they don't stagnate for months and months and months at a time, but they do take some time. So it's that yin yang. I highly recommend you guys go listen to that episode on Hidden Brain. I'll find the name of it and send it to you. So it is important that you know and you're very cognizant of when it's just a fear response. I'm afraid to just do this because I don't know what will happen. And then you can just address the fear. Or no, you know what? This one has so much risk to it. I really do need to find some more information before I just pull this because the risk is so significant. You have time to decide. Unless there are bones sticking out and blood on the floor, you have time to decide. The big leap, right? Einstein time. There is plenty of time to do the things you need to do. Time is a human construct. We put pressure on ourselves around time. Talked about that last week. You can go back and listen to that podcast. We put those constructs on ourselves. You have time to make the decisions you need to make and to invest where you need to invest. You just have to decide what the things are that are a priority for you. You have to decide. You have to take the time to decide and then move forward and give yourself an opportunity to have space to adjust. Because I believe that part of our fear is if we have to, one, there's a fear of embarrassment, right? What if I made the wrong decision and then everybody knows? But another piece is, man, at least the one that runs in my head, if you don't have time to do it right the first time, what makes you think you'll have time to do it over? It's a time thing. Time for me is a big, hairy deal. It's a big deal. Mortality, right? Time is fleeting. I am finding that that's circling everything in my life is time. How much time do I have? How much time is that going to take? Man, tomorrow is not promised. There's all these tapes that are just time based. And I have to dismantle a lot of that because we have plenty of time to do the things that we need to do and that we want to do, that are within our purpose to do. We are just making choices about how we spend that time. And indecision is a choice. Not pulling the trigger is a choice. And we all have choices. We're just not free from the consequences of those choices. So my choice to keep waffling around in this, which platform am I going to use, has an impact on creating less time to get it done based on the deadline that I set. So it absolutely has an impact on time. But guess what? It has an impact on time because I created it. I created the impact on my timeline by not dismantling the madness in my head around why I wasn't making a decision. So that discernment piece is really important. And knowing your trigger warnings. Are there things that you can notice? It's like, oh, I'm in a tailspin. I need to stop. When I first started noticing those things for me, I will sometimes literally put up my hands and just say, stop. Or I'll say my name out loud, Laurel, Laurel. Something that short circuits the spiral. But you need to allow yourself time to spend time in discernment. Because the decision is just one piece of it. Because then you got all the after stuff. Once you make the decision, then there's all the stuff that comes after the decision. Decisions about who you're going to deal with. Decisions about who you're going to let in your space or not. Decisions about who you're going to work with. Decisions about who you're not going to work with, who you're going to remove from your village. We make decisions every day. But if we have a foundation upon which we're making those decisions, that's where the power comes. That's where the power comes. We're going to do some shout outs here in a minute. So Jerry, we've been talking lately a lot about decisions and movement and moving out of 2022 into 2023 and things you're doing and being able to do remote radio shows and all that kind of stuff. What do you do when you have to make a decision to get yourself out of that kind of spiral?
It came to me while you were talking too. I was sharing with my listening audience this morning about my mother used to always say, remember, you have options. And I stood by that all my life. Oh, you remember, you have options. But then it came to me, sometimes we have too many options.
Yes.
And when we have too many options, it can cause, my blood pressure was up this whole weekend. I don't even have high blood pressure.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about, okay, I can do this, and it was getting in that tailspin.
Yep.
And then the Lord spoke to me personally, and he said, your option is to do what I told you to do.
Right.
That's your only option. Oh, girl. And so once he said that, I slept, my blood pressure is back to normal, and I stopped worrying about it because when you said your ultimate goal is to serve, but then again, there goes other options. You can serve anywhere. You can serve at Burger King parking lot if you need to serve at Burger King parking lot.
Right.
But the location of where you serve, I found out, is just as important.
Right.
Even when I was walking outside with Pete, as I began to think about all the people that I've met being on the corner of Alameda and Wichita.
Yes.
And I say that because I see so many mentally ill people walking the street,
Yeah.
and I've been a service to them because the mental hospital is down the street.
Right.
Okay. So at the end of the day, that was part of my purpose. That's a part of the plan. So when you begin to narrow down and stop saying we have so many options, sometimes too many options can have you thrown off. You have to have a purpose of why you're doing what you're doing. And is the place that you're located going to be able to help further you in that purpose?
Right.
And when I got that resolved, my blood pressure honestly went down. And I'm looking at Denise Washington said,
hey, Denise.
I started working toward my school while working at a private school. It took me a year to open. That was over 25 years ago. I left because I realized that it wasn't it. I didn't know what my it would entail, but I knew that I had to leave. She said, that's great. Congratulations. But listen, she also was working on a plan while she was working. And I think sometimes people jump the gun.
Yes.
And say, well, I'm going to be out here. I'm walking by faith. And you were never really told to jump that gun. Go ahead and allow the plan to work and formulate while you're doing the thing that you're ready to lead. And that's why I think her decision was easier because she already had the plan in place to leave that when she was tired of it.
I tell my clients all the time, don't hurt you because you're mad at them.
Yeah, that is.
Don't hurt you because you're mad at them, right? And when you know it's not it, try to give yourself some time to figure out what it is. Now, if you are in danger, you need to get out and figure it out, right? If you are in danger, if you are not in a safe space, if you're in a place that is really wreaking havoc on you physically, mentally, emotionally, that kind of stuff, then yeah, you probably need to get out as quickly as possible and just figure it out. But if it's not that, don't hurt you because you're mad at them, because see, they don't care. They don't care. They will, as soon as you step out, they got somebody ready to go in your seat, right? So don't hurt you because you're mad at them. Take time to figure out what your next move is going to be. Even if what you say to yourself is, you know what, here's what I'm going to do. And I recognize that this next move is an interim move, but I am doing an interim move on purpose and with intent. I know this next move is not where I'm going to stay, but this next move gets me out of this situation, enables me to have time to really work on my plan and create my exit strategy so that the third move is the right one. Right.
Can I say something else you said?
Yes.
That I also think sometimes you just need to tweak what you're already working on, because you said it. That I said, hey, we're gonna get out of the studio, we're gonna do some pop-up shows. And since doing that, because sometimes what we are is bored.
Yes.
And we may be tired of doing the same old, not knowing that it's still purposeful.
Yeah.
But you may have to tweak it and change a little scenery.
Right.
Or do a little something different while you're still doing the principal thing.
Exactly.
As long as it still boils down to the principal thing.
Right.
The little add-ons may help you go further and be content doing what you're supposed to be doing.
And that, and that is so on point, because as I've started doing strategy again for the end of the year, and I do this multiple times during the year just because my brain gets messy. And so I go back and really look at everything and write it down. And there's a hand-mind coordination for me. If I'm drawing it out, I've got my little colored pencils and everything. When I draw it out, it gets so much clearer for me. So whatever your process is, I suggest that you have a process. So to Jerry's point about sometimes you need to tweak, for the longest time, people would say, you got to plan your shows out. You got to plan everything you're going to say. You need to have a calendar for months and months and months. Now, I have a calendar a content calendar that goes to my episodes from the vault. You guys see those posted, the old episodes that align. And that was clear. I set up the whole 2022 calendar at December 2021, right? So it's done and done. But I was resistant to doing that same kind of thing for current content because it felt like it impeded upon my creative process, because I hear things, I listen to things, I read things like, that's what I need to talk about. Something comes to me, right? So I'm like, I can't plan my calendar because it's going to mess with my creative process. It's not going to be authentic, blah, 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 blah. But sometimes it's just a small tweak. So that sounded real good when all I had was a podcast. I've got a podcast, I've got a radio show, I've got a fireside show, and I've got clients. And time is not renewable. So I had to rethink, I had to put my mind, calm my mind down, put my feelings aside and say, if your purpose is to serve with excellence, to ensure that the messages get out and that people hear something that they need to hear every time, what is preventing you from doing some more content calendaring for your stuff? Because it's still your stuff. And if something happens to come up that week that you want to talk about different, just make it different. It's yours. And because I am so clear, alignment, vision, action, alignment, vision, action, everything is alignment, vision, action. When we're talking about leadership here today, right? And understanding how you make decisions. Did you not hear me say, you've got to make sure you are aligned with your purpose, who you are and where you are. Just like Reverend Wright said, decision-making is aligned with who you are. It should be aligned with the why. Why are you even making this decision? Everything falls into alignment, vision, action. And so when I said, you know what? I'm going to do that. Every month, first month of the quarter is alignment. Second month of the quarter is vision. Third month of the quarter is action. So I will get to do all of those 4 times a year. And when I said that, when I made that decision, I was like, we're talking about decision making today. Because we are in an action month, I think, or vision month. It's not an alignment month. We're in one of the other months. And this all aligns with that, right? What is it that you're trying to do? What is the purpose that is aligned so you can have a clear vision on what you're trying to do? And then you can move into action. But because I paused in all that messy mindedness and said, this is ridiculous. I know better than this. Physician, heal thyself. Stop. Let's figure out what's going on. Let's get all the colored pencils out and let's rewrite the strategies, look at everything, put everything on paper. Alignment, vision, action. And guess what? Every topic that comes to me fits under alignment, vision, action. I can now schedule out my calendar, not only for the rest of 2022, but going into 2023, not only for the old stuff that's going to be revisited, but for the new stuff. And my brain is rested. Kind of like Jerry said, peace. I'm like, you know what? Alignment, vision, action. I know that whatever I'm going to talk about is going to fit under alignment, vision, action. It makes it so much easier for things to come.
Because you have an outline and not a fence.
Exactly.
You have
Y'all
an
hear that?
order of how it's going to go, but you're not going to fence yourself in because it's going to always end up to be what your core purpose is.
Exactly. Exactly. An outline, not a fence. That's good. Y'all hear that? Jerry P. Beasley. Here on the corner of Almeda and Wichita, right? She's going to trademark that. Don't steal it, y'all.
That's right.
So when you're thinking about and getting caught up in the decision you need to make and what do I need to make and how do I make, I just need one more bit of information. One, remember what Reverend Wright said about Colin Powell, right? No less than 40%, but no more than 70% and make a decision. And I think I believe that's a really good kind of guardrails. I talk about that all the time, upper and lower control limits. Those are really good guardrails because it gives you lots of freedom to move within those. And then once you make the decision, you've got more information upon which to decide, oh, do I need something else? Do I need to adjust, right? Give yourself some freedom in that. But if you can go ahead and make the decision and then stay open, you can get that other information that's telling you, oh, maybe I need to adjust this, or I need to change this, or I need to tweak this. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. As Jerry just said, it could just be a tweak. I'm not changing my entire process. I'm saying with all this stuff going on, because I have believed for and prayed for continued abundance. I want every dollar that's coming to me, not for me, but for the impact that every dollar can make. I need to be able to manage my time differently and better in order to serve bigger and better, which means I can't just say, oh, here's what I think I'm going to talk about today, and then be up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning trying to record a podcast. Stop. No. So I was able to free my brain, develop a structure that gives me some guidelines or guardrails, an outline to be able to get stuff done early. And then if I get a wild hair and something happens, it's my podcast. I can change it. Mm-hmm. And most likely, whatever I get a wild hair about fits into alignment, vision, or action. Because I know that that's what my purpose is. To talk about alignment, who you are and where you are. To talk about what it is you want, and then to talk about what it's going to take and what you are willing to do to get there. Those are the 4 questions: who you are, where you are, what you want, and what it's going to take to get there. And I knew those 4 questions day one of starting this business. And it was only external stuff that I allowed myself to start listening to that got me off track. Right? So even in this decision making around this membership that I am clear about, I know what I want to do. I know what's going to be in it. I know what I need to design and how it's going to work. I allowed the indecision to take over because I wanted it to be perfect. I didn't want to have people to move. I don't want it to be a bad experience because I've had some really bad tech experience lately, right? So I want to prevent that from happening for people. It happens. And not only that, but they won't experience anything if I don't put anything out there. Sometimes you just got to move. Imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. And y'all are so amazing. My village, I put my village up against anybody's any day. Y'all are incredible. And I love you so much for your continued support and your continued engagement. So I know that this village that I'm creating, this membership that I'm creating, this community that I'm building is going to be phenomenal. And that is a community that is full of compassion and grace, not perfection. And so if something happens, I know me well enough to know that it's going to be, hey, y'all, here's what happened. Here's what we're going to do. You will have a heads up from me. And as long as you tell people what's going on, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. So next time you're caught up in this decision making, you can't find yourself pulling the trigger, can't figure out what to do, stop. Regroup. Why am I making this decision? Why am I making this decision? Good evening, Evelyn. Why am I making this decision? And once I know why I'm making this decision, then I can go back and say, okay, now that I know why, what are the things that are important to make this decision the best one I can make with the information that I have at the moment? And then move. Just move. Because then you're going to get more information to let you know if you're, hey, nope, that was spot on. Oh, maybe let me tweak this just a little bit. All right, let's do some shout outs.
The key thing you just said, you're building a community.
Yes.
And a village.
Yeah.
And imperfect things can happen. And God spoke to me the other day because there's a difference between having a bunch of followers and having supporters.
Yes.
Your supporters understand that things happen and they're there to support you and aid you and say, hey, you can do this. Let's build this. You're building something great. Followers are going to just fall off whenever they feel like falling off. Right. So it depends on what you're building. And sometimes we take advice from people who are building something totally different than what we've been called to build. Yes, exactly. Listen to your own heart. Evelyn, I'm so glad that resonated with you. She said, my word for the day, imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. I'm telling you,
Just move. Because here's the thing that we forget too, because we get caught up in the social media thing. We saw all the perfect, airbrushed madness. Your imperfection, your I tried is eons past somebody else who hadn't even gotten started. There's always someone who's watching. There's always someone you can encourage. There's always someone who is looking to you to begin their story. Don't believe you have to be perfect to make an impact. You don't. You just have to be active to make an impact. All right, let's shout out some folks.
Disclaimer, there's far more in other countries that are here that I cannot pronounce, so you have to hit that.
Okay. You'll get it on a shout out on Friday.
I see some different names here.
Yay.
So we have India, Mexico, Brazil, France, Puerto Rico, Panama, Germany, Finland,
Woo.
Frankfurt, Santa Maria, Hamburg, Rose Hill, Panama City, Helsinki.
Yeah.
We have Raleigh, Durham, New York,
Hey,
San
Raleigh.
Antonio, Los Angeles, St. Louis, Atlanta, Chicago, Fort Worth, and Houston.
Love it. And I know
St. Louis, and I say yes.
Oh, St. Louis. Yep. And I know I've got Cincinnati here on the line. I know I've got Houston here on the line. And Evelyn, I'm not sure where you are. So I don't know if you're local here to Houston or somewhere else. Let me know where you are and we'll shout you out too. And then we probably have Mo City and Acres Homes and all those folks
We have
too.
Mo City over here. We have Greens Point area. We also have was that Missouri City?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mo City.
Mo City. Y'all, thank you so much. And Pearland, thank y'all so much for being here. I love these Tuesdays with y'all and having this time to talk it out on Tuesday. And I just really pray and hope that it does give you something to keep you moving forward, to give you something to say, you're good. You're good. What you're doing and where you are is where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing right now. And if your gut tells you it's not, you have the power to make a choice to do something different. And you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to do something. And in that doing something, you learn more to know where you need to be next time. Thank y'all for listening. Next week, the show is on Friday, not on Tuesday. Next week, the show is on Friday. So I'll see you on Friday next week. And I believe that the Fireside show, I also have a guest next week on Fireside. So that's going to be on Thursday. But tomorrow, the podcast drops, the pre-recorded with my guest, Karen Rhodes, former executive at Microsoft and who now has her own business around leadership. And we're doing live on Fireside for an after show tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central on the Fireside app, firesidechat.com/Laurel Rutledge to get access. And it'll be simulcast on my YouTube channel, Laurel Rutledge, the Rutledge Perspective on my YouTube channel, simulcast on that as well. Oh, Evelyn, you're in Odessa. Hey, Odessa. So thank y'all. I appreciate it. Love you guys. We'll plan to see you next week. Bye. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
All right,
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you get out of here and